You're listening to the Reluctant Adult Podcast. If you like what you're hearing, follow us on social media and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. This is the way.
I don't wanna grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. There's a million.
This week from the internet, extra, read all about it. Toy collectors surpass preschoolers as most irresponsible spenders. Plus, Super 7 teases their 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates, confirming that they will not receive another cease and desist from Playmates. And Power Rangers and Netflix part ways, leaving fans to wonder if we've seen the last of these teenagers with attitude. No, you can't play with it. You won't enjoy it on as many levels as I do. It's the Reluctant Adult Podcast.
Don't you be a dummy! Buckle your safety belt!
Thank Billy. It's morphin' time!
Welcome to another episode of the Reluctant Adult Podcast. My name is Paul, and I am joined, as always, by the man who is considering canceling his subscription to the New York Post, Bill.
Hi, everyone. I'm 2 steps ahead of you. I never even had a subscription.
What? Remember subscribing to magazines? I guess technically my kid still gets like Lego magazine because my mom gives him that as
Yeah.
a Christmas present. We used to get like Ranger Rick and shit.
Okay.
Star Wars
I was big
Insider.
into Star Wars Insider, yeah.
Get that. Toy Fair. I don't know that I ever subscribed to Toy Fair, or I would pick it up at Barnes and Noble. I don't know that I.
Okay.
I don't know that I subscribed. Maybe I did. I love Toy Fair.
Magazines are expensive.
Oh, are
Have
they?
you seen? Yeah.
No, I don't even consider them as a thing that they exist. That's
Okay.
amazing.
So, it's not quite a Time puts out, like, Time Life puts out, like, a magazine that highlights, like, something. So, my kid into Godzilla, like, a year ago, I don't go to the newsstand, but it's always by the checkout. It's like, The Life of Godzilla. $13.
The Life of Godzilla. Well, that's like a special edition. That's a little different.
It is,
It's
sure.
like all those full color photographs. Like ink ain't cheap.
$13.
Colored
$13
ink ain't cheap. $13. That's too much. Well, last week we broke the news. I guess it took the mainstream media about a week to pick it up, but we were talking about this last week. Grown-ass adults now the #1 buyers of toys in America, eclipsing preschoolers for the first time in the history of toys. And the New York Post actually wrote an article about it. What is it? Here it is. Grown-ups surpass preschoolers as the biggest toy consumers. Quote, most important age group. Now, the fun thing about this story is our good friend and Mr. Fantastic lookalike Dan Larson was actually quoted in this article. He says, the reality is that most kids today are not connecting with the physical toys the way previous generations did. He's a big fan of G.I. Joe, Dan is. Do we know that about Dan? I don't feel like I knew that.
I've known that, yeah.
You knew that. Okay.
I knew that.
I block out. For some reason, I block out G.I. Joe stuff.
Oh, I've had
And then
a
they
fun
go
week with
on, they
G.I.
use-
Joe, but we'll get into it.
We'll get into that,
Later.
yeah. And then they use the term kidults, which I still don't love. I don't know who coined that.
Yeah.
I don't know why we settled on kidults when reluctant adults was right there. It was right there. You had to do kidults. I was at Cracker
Kidult.
Barrel yesterday. They had signage in the toy section that said kidults welcome, or like embrace your inner kidult.
Oh, I feel like it's terminology that like everyone outside of the community can like refer to them. Oh, I'll get
It's
that
like
for
a
my
slur.
grandson. It is like
It's
a slur, yeah.
They've
got like
they've
your
invented
85-year-old
a
grandfather who's
derogatory
like,
term.
oh,
Yeah. I
yeah.
heard about you,
You know,
in the
you might be
paper. You're one of
35.
those kidults.
you're one of those kidults. What do your parents think of you? Like, Grandpa, I'm 26 years old. I'm a grown man. Oh, you're a kidult.
You're a kidult.
You change your
You
diaper, you kidult.
We need another Vietnam. That thin their ranks a little. It's coming. That's a Simpsons phrase, just in case you think we're getting political. It's just the Simpsons. So, this story is in the physical New York Post. If I guess they still print physical newspapers, but it's on the digital version, and they tweeted it, and the tweet has a comment section that you can go and read right now, and it includes such comments as creepy when you think about it, and when I become a man, I put childish things away, and ew, and double face palm emoji.
Yes.
And then somebody said, money on dates, money on loan payments, nah, toys. Someone else said, that's why there's more pedophiles. Sir,
no.
I think you're exposing yourself. I don't think you understand how this works. Someone else said, I'd rather have a girlfriend. Well, it's not, one or the other, sir. I don't know. Yeah. You can't be blaming that. And then finally, someone just said, pathetic, LOL.
Right.
So, and
so
then
what
I
are
was
these
like,
people? What are these people doing? What are they?
Who are these people? Right.
That's the other
well,
thing.
some of them were saying like, I'd rather be playing video games, and I was like, sir, you're not in any position to speak on us.
Yeah.
If you are just you're spending your money on children's games. If anything, I feel like collecting action figures is a more refined hobby than video games. This is the gentleman's hobby, collecting
a little bit more tangible.
Tiny figures.
It's quite, it's tangible at that point. You can interact.
It's like you got that whole like stonks community out there.
Right.
The meme stonks people, where they're all like, they think they're too cool for school. They don't get it. They didn't grow up in the asylum we grew up in. We had to buy small plastic toys for our engagement, our entertainment.
I just remember coming to terms with this as a kid, and as I got older, and thinking it's odd that I still collect toys, and like these nerdy things, and then before that it was like you either, and in my opinion, because video games weren't where they're at, you either had your nerdy stuff, or you had like the sports guys. That was the divider. Yeah, you were either super into sports, or you were super into like non-mainstream comic books, toys,
like playing
like that.
Sports or like watching like the
I feel like the duality of it was like the sports guys would be like, oh, you're a nerd because but then you look back and you're like, well, you like sports too much. Don't you mean like you're too nerdy at that point because you like sports?
Yeah, if you're a fan of anything, that means you're a fanatic about it. It means you obsess too much, more than you should be obsessing about something. It doesn't matter what it is. You could collect stamps. You're a stamps fanatic. We just chose toys. And
you can get lots of guns, and then you're a gun nut.
You could be a gun fan, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a myriad of reasons why you would collect toys. You could be collecting to flip them for profit. This could be business. It could be just the aesthetic of toys, like you enjoy them as pieces of art. You could just, it could be nostalgia. It could be for play. Like people, have figure photography. That's a form of play. Escapism, whatever. There's lots of different reasons that people do everything.
It's true. Now, I'm going to tell you real quick. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with G.I. Joe this week, mainly just opening. So just real quick, one of the figures I opened tonight was Snow Job. Mm-hmm. And talk about like figures being amazing.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe, the classified line now, just because of the way they can get every accessory to fit on a figure.
Oh, yeah?
Now, this is one of the deluxe figures. I don't have it with me because I was just like, I put it in front of my wife and I was like, be impressed by this. This is an amazing thing. Mm-hmm. So, it just encompassed in his backpack. You can get the snowshoes, the skis, the ski poles, his rifle. Is there anything else? All attached to the backpack. Mm-hmm. Like, he has literally nothing that he needs to hold. All goes on him. And it's just amazing.
Figure not do that. I feel like even the original figure could kind of.
I'm sure the original figure did do that. I'm sure it did, but I didn't have.
I'm
the
holding out for
figure.
Blizzard. Blizzard was my skiing guy. I like Blizzard.
Okay.
Snowjob's a little too original for me. Original flavored. I like Blizzard from Real American Heroes. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, that we are impressed because we grew up with toys and now we see how far they've come. Like, if you compare the technology of toys to the technology of almost anything outside of maybe computers, like cars haven't changed that much. Like, things have not changed, but toys, it's night and day comparing. And like, I don't know how much further toy technology can go. Like, we could maybe get to small soldiers and maybe then that's it. Make our toys sentient, but I don't even know that we'd want that. But in terms of sculpting, in terms of realism, like, go back and look at those Kenner Star Wars figures. Look at that original Luke Skywalker and then compare him to Snowjob.
Right.
Like, these aren't the same things.
Even compare that original Luke to the Return of the Jedi Luke and see the leaps and bounds it took in 6 years. And it's amazing.
I still don't understand why the sculpting was so poor on the original figures, because it's not like as a society, as species, we couldn't sculpt things. Like, there's amazing marble sculptures all around the world.
But at the same time, those original figures were sculpted rather quickly.
But still, you can make a nice sculpture. I don't know. It just never made sense to me.
But no,
it's like, this is a toy. It should look stupid. Like, should look real dumbed down. Like the Play School things. Like, make it really simple, real smooth. Maybe that's what it was. They thought if they put more detail in, it wouldn't translate to the final product. So they had to make it super simple. For whatever reason, compare what we had in the 80s to today, and you should be impressed by that change. Like, that's why we've stuck with it, because it's not like it stayed this simple little toy. Like, now we are collecting works of art. I don't think you can question it. And now a lot of the toys are sculpted digitally. So it's like the way that these things are made evolved. Like, and that's impressive too. Like, so much of this work is done inside a computer, and then think of how that translates to other things. It's like, we're going to be designing houses and just 3D printing them.
We're already doing that.
Yeah, exactly. they do look bad. Yeah, we'll work on that. We just have to build the bigger 3D printer. build that first. But I just thought it was interesting that this was like getting some mainstream attention. And then Dan on his Twitter actually linked to an article called The Great Regression. And it was talking about, there are some people who will point at us and be like, you got to grow up. You got to be a man. And the article talks about the 1990s in Japan and how people in Japan seem to regress, seem to infantilize themselves. Hello Kitty became a big deal. But the thesis there is that it's not so much that we're becoming children, it's just like our next evolution. It's like you become a child, and what does that child grow into? It's like, okay, well, what we're doing right now is not really working. Let's start again. Let's see where we end up next time.
I see no harm in a hobby whatsoever. Then the hobby can take many forms.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And especially when you have a world like we do, where you kind of can't keep your mind on current events 100% of the time because you'll go insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need something. You need something nice.
You need a
hobby. You just need something.
You need a hobby
that you can embrace and hug, and you can be like, this is, and like, we don't like to use the word safe space because that has a negative connotation too. But as long as you realize that it is a safe space and you don't pretend this is the way that everybody thinks, I think that's okay. We are your safe space. You are welcome here. Thanks for coming. Don't be a dick. There's certain rules. It's not like it's a lawless land here. You have to be kind to each other. I think that's important. People like different things. You like Star Trek. I think Star Trek is dumb. But I don't make fun of you for liking dumb Star Trek. You probably think wrestling's dumb. You don't make fun of me for liking dumb wrestling.
I don't. I appreciate it as a craft. I do. It does take effort. It does.
Absolutely. I mean, it appeals to the lowest common denominator. I don't think we can dispute that. I would love to break it down beyond what has been done in recent times and really look at like who the fans are and what like that relationship between wrestlers and fans and how it's sort of predatory if you think about it. Where like you have to pay for autographs, but that's sort of expanded to all of entertainment now. And I think some of the people who are the biggest supporters of these wrestlers maybe like can't make the best decisions. Maybe they're not capable, but that's a whole other ball of wax that maybe we'll get into. That's my thesis paper, so we'll get into that. But thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So yeah, just wanted to start off this week talking about that, how we were a little bit ahead of the curve in terms of national news this week.
It's always nice to be ahead of national news.
Yeah, I think so.
And not in national news.
Well, listen. We'll see. Someday, the way things are going and collecting becoming a bigger deal, we may be the people that are looked to for very important decisions because we are the people. We are the leaders of this community. We are the vocal majority. I don't know. We got we have some good people like Dan Larson out there that are spokesperson for the hobby. I'd like to include ourselves among that. If anyone would like to get a quote, we are open for that. Something that was very exciting to me this week, we've been talking about this for a while. Super 7 announced that they are doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles based on the 2003 Fox Kids version of the Turtles. And they sort of kept pushing back when they were going to show off these figures. But we got a sneak peek. They showed the faces of all 4 turtles. And I got to say, I think they nailed it. Did you get a chance to look at these?
I mean, I saw the picture.
You saw the picture?
And, yeah. It looked like an album cover.
Because it's got the 4 squares.
It just has the 4 squares, yeah.
So a couple of notes from these. These are being sculpted digitally by Brandon Gash. And he made headlines recently because he's working on a custom Jim Lee Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figure. And people saw these pictures and they were thinking that these were being officially made by Super 7 or some other company, but no, these are just his hobby. He sculpts just for himself. So, but he is like 3D printing these and making these. But so far, these are not being made by anyone. He also did recently Mondo Gecko. He did RZA for Super 7. We talked about them recently. He worked on the Thundercats Cat's Lair, that giant playset that got funded. And then he's doing Nacelle's Cowboys of Moo Mesa, which I think look great. So clearly this guy, Brandon Gash, you can follow him on Instagram. I think the line is in good hands. I think these look accurate to the cartoon, which was what I was waiting to see, if they were going to like pull a fast one and make these look like the Playmates toys, which looked nothing like the cartoon.
Yeah. Which I guess is a good thing, because if it is the cartoon, obviously Nickelodeon owns the distribution rights to the cartoon, and Nickelodeon's the one pulling the strings on this, so obviously they're not an homage to those Playmates figures. They are a direct homage to the cartoon itself.
And he gave them some really nice emotion in their faces, like some of the eyes are larger. He did something really interesting with Leonardo's one eye, where it's like another layer. It's sort of hard to explain, but you can look at the picture and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Like, wasn't sure how the 2D animation would translate into 3D, but I think they nailed it. And I'm very, I really want to see how the full body looks, to see how they I really want to see that. And then these are supposed to have double jointed knees and elbows, the first time that Super 7 is doing that. So hopefully they do it correctly. They don't do some crazy, like, Brian's like, all right, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it in the most fucked up way possible. It's going to look like when NECA does the sausage link elbows.
Oh, yeah. It would be similar to, remember the early Hasbro, the swivel elbow?
Yeah,
that could go straight if you like rotated it, and then it would go back up. Yeah. No,
I don't know what you're talking about. Who had that?
So after Power of the Force, and I think it was after Phantom Menace stuff came out, and right after It was like the Saga collection that came out after the Attack of the Clones. They developed this joint where you could rotate it back.
Yeah.
And you'd have a cut at the wrist, so you could readjust the wrist in the secondary position, but you were able to just, it was
so
cut in like, it was like a slice.
Yes, the slant.
And then it would slice, yes, it would be a slant, so it would go like this, or then it would go straight, and it was the worst thing in the world.
That's bizarre.
So it worked for the Imperial officer, so you could do the hands behind the back pose, like they were at attention, but then it looked like this garbled mess in the back. It was so weird.
Well, eventually they invented that,
don't have one.
where it's not a full ball joint, or it's not a shoulder ball joint. It's a joint at the elbow, but it has the lateral move as well as like the side to side move. So that's funny that's the evolution of that articulation. You got one right there. Show them off.
I might.
Well, we were talking about the HasLab for the
have
Cantina and all of the figures that you're going to have to populate that. And somebody on our TikTok mentioned the original pop-up cardboard one. Do you remember that one? That was very early on in Power of the Force 2, because he was like, didn't Wooher come with that? And I was like, no, it came with like another Sand Trooper.
It came with the Sand Trooper. The Sand Trooper didn't have the backpack. Instead, it had the
droid,
the security droid.
Yeah, you put on
that would
like the pauldron.
Clip onto his back. The pauldron.
Yeah,
those came out during the special edition, so that would have been like 96, 97. Yeah,
right. So if it's still sold on Amazon, like somebody has one, so you can go look at the packaging. And it's so funny because there were not a lot of figures that would populate the Cantina. Like Wooher was not a figure at that point. You didn't even have Dr. Evasian. You had Ponda Baba, but he was there all by himself. So it's so funny that they made at least on the packaging, they didn't have Dr. Evasian there yet, because it was so early on in the line.
Right.
So
it's just funny that he went a long time without a figure as well.
Yeah.
Like a
that's what I'm saying.
They were in
these
they
are
were
the
in
figures.
Those, right.
Oh, it was in the Cinema 3-pack?
That's the Cinema, those pre-posed awful Cinema 3-packs where they're just like, they were terrible. He didn't get his just dues until the vintage collection.
Yeah.
And then they made a really good figure, but outside of that, ugh.
I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about whether they were going to support this HasLab or not, and then they were talking about like the figures that go into it. And it's interesting because it's like it's such a small scale, and then to make such detailed figures and give them so much articulation, it's like I almost feel like it's not worth it. Like I feel like you should keep the sculpts more. Like, too much articulation is going to ruin the sculpts at that scale. Like, keep the super articulation to the 6-inch line. Like, that's what Black Series is for.
Right.
But do you feel like they've been successful with the smaller scale and making those super articulated?
I mean, I feel like there's certain figures, that it succeeds by, and then there's some figures that it doesn't do well for. You can go with, assisting the sculpt over the articulation aspect of it. Just in terms of like natural range and motion, like they can all hold their blasters. They can't like Luke's, like you can't forcibly like make Luke hold his lightsaber in two hands and go like that.
Right.
So there's there's some things, and that's a big pose. You want that pose. You want to be able
to. Yeah.
You don't want Luke to just be like, I got a lightsaber. That's it.
It's the straight arm. Yeah.
Yeah, the straight arm, or
right. Like when you had the original Kenner line and even Power of the Force 2, they all had straight arms. That's why they invented that janky articulation where you could have at least a bent arm. But I wonder if I wonder if Hasbro will ever take a cue from what Mezco is doing with their 6 points or whatever, their 9 points, whatever that line is called.
5 points collection.
5 points, yeah. Yes. Where they come with alternate limbs to already be in those poses. Like, do you think that's something that could fit? Like, that's something that Hasbro's never done, as far as
that is something that Hasbro has never done, and I feel like it's something that they could do, but obviously they would start charging a premium for it. So you'd see that as almost a deluxe figure at that point.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what they could do because they want to have that higher price tag item. And the deluxe figures they've been putting out have been pretty subpar, or like the value doesn't seem to be there.
The value's not there for those, and they had. I can't say that they had an advantage. Well, they definitely had an advantage over the consumer when they had the plastic-free packaging.
Oh, right.
Because they could hide.
They could hide.
What was not included with these figures. It'd be like, oh yeah, this thing's gonna be a beast. You talk about Chrysanthemum there with the Book of Boba Fett, the big Wookiee. It's all just air. And, we have those Indiana Jones sets, the micro series Indiana Jones, where it's like a full box, and the box is like an 8x8 square, and the figure and the toy itself encompasses maybe a quarter of the box.
Right. You open it up, and
you're
it
like,
looks lonely.
He's like,
shoved
oh,
in the
this
corner.
is it? Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah. So maybe that's an idea. I don't know. I think that's really smart on Mezco's part to keep the aesthetic, but it's also like not something we've really seen from American toy makers. Like it feels like something you would see like from the Japanese toys. So I wonder.
Right. Well, it's almost like taking the figure and then turning it into a static.
Yes.
It's no longer an action figure. It's more of a statue at that point.
Right. So there would have to be a little bit of like relearning what it means and like. Yeah. I don't know. So I wonder if there would be pushback, but I think it's a great idea. I would love to see them try it at least. Like there are some figures that could really benefit from that type of technology.
Right.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's not even that much technology. It's almost
it's not. It's just
like a regression back. Way. It's like yes, exactly.
Yeah. You just it would be removable limbs, and then you just snap in the other limbs. So. But we'll see. I think.
But American toy companies don't like that. They don't like packaging a figure that can have two versions of itself in one package. They like to be like, yeah, we can make it this way, and then like down the road we'll make an additional figure that will have you buy that.
Some companies, McFarlane loves to double dip, but if you look at these wrestling figures, you have these Supremes from Jazzwares.
Right.
They literally come with multiple sets of legs to represent different matches, different looks.
Yeah.
So there are companies doing this, just not everyone. Some companies like Todd McFarlane will make you buy two figures to get the unmasked head for whatever Batman or whatever they're doing.
Right.
Speaking of McFarlane, I wanted to mention this. He put out some photos this week. One of the figures is Sergeant Rock, who I don't know anything about this character. Do you know anything about Sergeant Rock from the DC universe?
I know. I know he existed. I don't know much about Sergeant Rock.
I don't know.
Outside of
he's like an army man.
He's an army man. He's probably from a certain generation.
Yeah.
Of
I don't know if
DC.
He's got powers. He's just got guns.
Right. He's just a DC
the cool
G.I.
thing,
Joe.
McFarlane's doing something kind of cool with him. They're putting out a version of this figure that's painted entirely green, like the little plastic army man.
Yes.
Even the circle stand that he comes with is green, like the army men, how they're permanently attached.
Right.
So I think that's fun.
That is clever.
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
That just reminds me of those Sarge's Heroes games that they used to make. The Army Men games. Those were terrific.
Yeah. There's a new video game that's out. It's like self-published, and you play as an action figure. So it's like Fortnite, but you're an action figure in like some kid's bedroom.
Yes.
And I think you can get it on Xbox, or it's coming soon. The guy's always on TikTok streaming it. But I think that's like we've talked about this before. The next Marvel Legends video game or Marvel video game should be Marvel Legends. Play as the figures. Just like they're doing with the wrestling game, where you get to be Cody Rhodes as an action figure. It's just more fun. I don't know. I like it. The other thing with this McFarlane set is there's a Superboy, Connor Kent, and he's just wearing like a t-shirt and jeans. So if you want like a normal, make like your custom figure of you or something, and it's actually the same body that they used for the Todd McFarlane figure in that 2-pack with like original Spawn. Yep. And somebody was like, why is there a sculpted rip in the jeans of the figure? And someone's like, well, that was the McFarlane figure. Well, that doesn't answer the question. Why is that there? Apparently, the jeans mold, except for the knees, is from that Constantine figure that was released a ways back, and that had ripped pants for whatever reason. I don't know why Constantine has to have ripped pants, but if you notice, like the belt buckle or the belt is like sort of if you compare the three figures, you can see it's exact same except the knees, because the knee had a big rip. So it's like his knee, the knee of the jeans was completely ripped. So they replaced those at least. So not an original sculpt. I don't know. I thought for whatever reason they did a brand new sculpt for that Todd figure, but not the case. NECA started announcing their summer exclusives, and they haven't announced anything for Turtles yet, which people are starting to get a little concerned about. It's like, is something coming, or is it like saving the best for last? What do you think? What do you think they got cooking up?
They don't have anything too exciting so far revealed.
No, not really.
No, and I think they usually like to do it in fours in terms of exclusivity. Mm-hmm. So there might be one more. It might be Turtles. I don't know what's on the horizon that people are looking for. I mean, the departure's really been seen with the Toon Turtles. We've really moved away from the constant releases of the Toon Turtles. I feel
there's nothing left. What else could you do?
There is nothing left. It's not exciting anymore.
Nothing that's exciting.
Yeah,
those Punk Turtles are really sitting at my target.
They're sitting around.
They're not moving.
Same here.
People didn't want them.
The Pizza Club Turtles sitting around.
Oh, those I have not seen.
Mutagen Man is back. I've seen Mutagen Man. He's back with the duck.
Maybe those were returns. Ace Duck.
They could have been Ace Duck. Thank you. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I was like Ace Duck.
Yeah, we seem to be moving towards the Mirage line and the Last Ronin stuff. So maybe we'll see another Last Ronin figure.
Me. I don't know.
No, not exciting to me.
I don't feel like
either.
Those sell super well either. Yeah, I think. So I don't know what NECA's play is here, because they had, they caught lightning in a bottle with the Toon Turtles, and they clearly pumped out a ton of stuff over the last 5 years.
I would say 5-6 years. Yeah, I mean, they've rode that quite a bit.
But then you gotta think they knew that there would be an eventual end. What do you think? What do you think their game plan is here?
I mean, they could go into the Red Sky Turtles, and then that would be the swan song. Be like, yes.
Well, yeah. So okay, so there is still Toon Turtles.
There's still Toon Turtle stuff. Not as exciting,
won't be as exciting. Yeah, but I just wonder, outside of that, I thought maybe they would do 2003, but Super 7 trumped them. They got there first.
Yeah, they did.
And then they've released some Archie stuff, but not a ton.
Yeah, I don't know how successful the Archie stuff was, and I think there's still a little bit more planned for that. But
those wrestling turtles, I don't think have found a home yet.
No,
we've seen those. Yeah,
right.
Or just normal Archie turtles, we haven't seen that yet.
We have not.
So there's still some stuff they can do, but in terms of thinking 3-4 years out, I don't know.
What are we seeing from San Diego then? Because it's not all that exciting so far. What's been released?
Maybe they're gonna surprise us. One thing I did want to talk about,
what we do have.
Well, that's what I want. Yeah. So the one thing I want to talk about from Comic-Con, they're doing another Elf, Elf.
Right.
And this is Super Elf. Now, at first I was like, is this just a made up thing? But I think there is a cartoon version that exists of Super Elf.
This is Elf number 4, correct?
Because there was the first Elf, and then there was last year's San Diego Elf. Was there another one in between that?
What about the Rock and Roll Elf?
Rock and Roll Elf.
Yes.
So
the denim
I
jacket.
consider him. Okay, so this Elf exists as he's on the cover of a children's book that has a cassette that goes along with it, and this is the exact look. So at least it's accurate to something. And then we could be looking forward to looks like a Safari Elf, maybe that's next year. Just looking at these other books. Now, I will say that I am a pretty big Elf fan. Yeah. Do you think there are Elf super fans out there that are buying up all these Elf figures?
I feel like the San Diego exclusive last year hung around for a little while.
Yes.
I don't think it sold through right away. People weren't banging the doors down to get this one.
But it must be a pretty
I think this is going to be the same thing. I I mean, I would be more concerned with the fan that if you walk in and the whole room is dedicated to just Alf. You know, you come hang out with me and you're like, yeah, this dude just likes toys. There's toys everywhere. Kids like toys. He likes toys. But there's a good mix of different toys. But you walk into a room and it's just the dude that likes Alf. Top down in his room, and you're like,
I want to meet the Alf super
Where'd
fan.
you get all
Number
this
one
merch?
Alf fan. I mean, there's enough going back. Was he in the 80s or he started in the 90s?
No, he's in the 80s.
He was back in the 80s too. Is that when the sitcom was? The 80s?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't. That seems so long ago.
It was.
Let me see when this started. Wait. Oh. I had Super Alf typed into my Google and then I deleted Alf. So it's a super sitcom, which is apparently a sitcom from the 70s. Where is Alf? 86. Well, okay. Oh, he ended in 90. So it's almost entirely 80s. And then he came back. He had like a talk show on Nick at Night or something like that, TV Land. So
yeah.
Alf's always tried to stick around. It's never been as successful, obviously, as that sitcom. You know the story of why the sitcom ended, right? Like that NBC wanted to own the character, and then the guy that created Alf was like, and that's why it ended. It could still be going on today. That could have saved NBC. So yeah, so that's I don't know. San Diego Comic-Con. Do we know it's coming up soon? Right, next month.
What happened last year? We had the
end of the month,
writer's strike.
25th.
And we had
that was this year,
SAG
wasn't it?
strike.
Beginning of this year?
No, it was last. Because remember last year, everybody pulled out. They all pulled out from San Diego. Like there was no Marvel presence or anything, and it was more. We had talked about it. It was more of a genuine Comic-Con,
right?
Because because the media and like the Hollywood like influence wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was probably like the truest sense of what a Comic-Con should have been.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But yeah, we also, we got your Super Alf, and then we have another Prey figure.
The Predator?
From that Prey movie. We have a third version, I think, of that where he's cloaked in muddy, maybe.
So is this just like a bridge year? Like nothing new, nothing exciting to look forward to?
Right, and then we have a glow-in-the-dark, I think it's glow-in-the-dark Nosferatu for like a Monsters line.
Okay, cool. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know, right? I mean, I did the research.
If there's no turtles,
I
don't know. I feel bad for people. Imagine this is your first Comic-Con. You're like, hey, I'm going to get all the exclusives. And you show up, it's like, here's Alf. All right,
here's Alf.
Thanks.
I mean, I haven't even seen much from Hasbro, because usually Hasbro starts to be like, hey, this is what we're putting out, but they save everything for PaulsCon now.
For PaulsCon, yeah. When is PaulsCon? Yeah.
I mean, I think it usually is in September. September or October is PaulsCon.
All right. Well, I don't know what's happening, guys. Did you hear the news? The adults spend more money on toys than anyone, but you got to actually put something out there for us to buy. Or
hey, I'm telling you,
we're not just giving you money.
It's not working for me anymore, but we can come back to that after the break. Buying new toys.
You're not finding stuff. All right, we'll get into that in a second. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. So even though adults are the number one buyers of toys, if these companies aren't making toys for us to buy, what are we supposed to do? Where are we getting our toys now?
I tell you where I'm going. I'm going to Goodwill. An awful lot.
Yeah.
Goodwill.
I got you hooked on Goodwill.
I love going to Goodwill now. It's like I make a box at home and I'm like, I'm bringing this to Goodwill. And it's like, you're doing the right thing. You're donating your stuff. And then I come back with even more stuff.
Even more. At least there's some sort of exchange there where you're moving some stuff exchange out of the house before you get the new stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So what'd you find? What are you getting?
So this past week, and I've turned my mom onto Goodwill. So normally with Goodwill, I would just run in and like run out 5 minutes, and I wouldn't get a good idea of anything. I wouldn't get to look. I'd just be like, up toys, and then that's it. This past week, I brought the kid and my mom into Goodwill, and we spent like 40 minutes in there just perusing, digging, having fun, talking about stuff.
Literally digging, yeah.
Yes, I went looking for that shirt.
That's right.
Then realized that it was the wrong color. I went in looking for a black shirt. It was not black.
Gray, right?
It was a gray shirt. It was a gray shirt. So I had to
you
go
were in the
back
wrong
and look in the
place the
gray
whole
shirt
time.
section, and it wasn't there. So either it's sold,
it.
and
Yeah.
whomever did buy it, thank you. But this past week, I go into the toy section, and what do I find? I find 2 very large bags of early 2000s Transformers.
Oh, the grab bag. I love it.
Yes. And when all in all total, $10 a piece for each bag. Each bag had about 11 Transformers in each one. And there were some good ones in there.
Yeah.
You know, some a little worse for wear, some missing some pieces, but the majority in very good shape. And for $10 a pop for the bag. And then I found a big bag of Harry Potter Legos that I haven't even gone through yet.
Harry Potter Legos?
So-
What?
I found a bag of
Wow.
Legos. So what I think what my Goodwill does, so they have like a jewelry case at the very front
Right,
where they
mine
keep
too.
some of the higher end things or the stuff that they feel is like higher end in there. So the week prior there was a bag of Legos, and I think usually when it doesn't move in that case, they move it back into the main floor.
That's funny. Yeah.
So I think this bag of Legos had been in that case and had been moved out. But the exciting thing about this is, yes, there's Harry Potter figures in there, but our library, and not the library I ripped off, but the other library that I frequent
another
more,
library,
has a nice Lego figure exchange program where if you see a Lego that you'd like, and this wouldn't be for me, this would be for my daughter. If she sees a Lego that she likes, she just brings in a figure, and it's like, take a penny, leave a penny.
Oh, were the minifigures?
Yes, the minifigures.
Oh,
So
could you do it for those Simpson figures?
Oh, right. Yes, I sent you that photo where the display, and this has always been fun with the library, and I was big with this with my Star Wars collection back in the 90s, where someone would bring in a personal collection to display at the library for like a month.
Yeah.
So this month was provided by a Lego builder, and they had the Simpsons house, the Quickie Mart, the Flintstone house. They had the Friends Cafe, the Central Perk.
Show off. Wow.
And then they had a smattering of minifigures, and it was like, if you must know the value of that Simpsons house, because it by no means should it be in that case without a lock and key, because that thing
someone's gonna steal it.
Someone's gonna grab it and be like, "Yeah, I'm just bringing this home with me."
Yeah, I'm just Lego exchange.
Do you know who I am
there.
compared to libraries? Do you know what I do? No.
Have you heard of me and my
Oh,
interactions
have
with
you
library?
heard?
Well, we've been talking about my Goodwill and how they just had the mother load of pops, Marvel pops,
like
somebody
a
getting out of
dumping
the
ground
game.
of pops.
Yeah. So I posted those TikToks, and people were like, "Oh, you should, instead of using Google Lens, just use the Funko app." And I was like, let me check out this Funko app. So I downloaded it. Basically, the difference between that and Google Lens is you have to scan the barcode of the Funko item. So I was doing it around my house, and like, you can add things to your collection, which is cool. So then you can like see the value of your collection, and then like very quickly my collection like got up to like $500. I was like, oh
sure,
I should sell these. Like, what am I doing? And then so I took that, I went to the Goodwill and I opened up the app, and then what I realized is at the Goodwill, whoever was putting the price stickers on the figures was putting it right over the barcode, so it was impossible for me to use the Funko app.
Right.
So I don't know if that was intentional or that's just where they were told to put the price stickers.
I was really
foiled.
I was really enjoying the comments ever since the Geico Ween giveaways, that like you post something about the Funko Pops, and then they're like, just get me that one. Can you give me that? And
people are just
like people just like assuming that we're giving stuff out here. Yeah. Just because you asked.
So I know I was almost like, yeah, I'll do that. But then I was like, well, no, this is kind of a dangerous precedent to set. Yeah. So I stopped like responding. Some people were like, hey, where is this Goodwill? And I was about to message him and be like, well, here's the address. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why would I want you to know where my Goodwill is? This is my Goodwill. Go find your own Goodwill. Right. I won't have any content for this show if you show up before me. This is like your whole job, showing up to Goodwills and taking stuff. So sorry. I'm keeping it a secret as far as this is. I don't know. Don't figure out where it is. It's mine. I'm keeping it. I'm lock and key.
Yeah, no, of course not.
I wanted to talk more about Funko Pop because I got into these soda figures, and I knew of them, but I really never saw them at stores like at Target. And then Five Below had them for $5, and I was like, yeah, that's great. So I got a couple of those. Went back to the same Five Below. They didn't have any more, but also didn't look like people really took any more of them. Like there's a lot left at this one location. So I was like, are these popular? And then I noticed that I went to a couple of TJ Maxx and they had them, but they have like the most obscure characters. Like this one TJ Maxx had the female chef from Ratatouille as a soda figure.
Okay.
Like, did they make every character ever? Like, these are some weird choices.
But yeah, no, I mean, those soda pops, you don't see those everywhere, do you? I feel like if there's like a special promotion, like Walmart does like a collector's end cap, Target does like a collector's, like a Funko collector. You don't see them anyway. I see them at Newbury Comics if I'm ever there, or like some kind of specialty shop. They're usually at.
Well,
you mentioned Hot Topic, and I got scared for a minute that you were still going to the mall.
No, this is a brand new Hot Topic in the strip mall. So it's like I just needed to get out of the heat for a second. I just went in there. So this Hot Topic. It's
I gotta get out of the heat. Let's go to Hot Topic.
Yeah, because it's nice and dark in there. It's very cool.
I told you that story, that Hot Topic story that I told you so long ago has been ingrained in my head. That it was not. It was Hot Topic.
It's Hot Topic. Okay, you say so.
It's Hot Topic. I will never go back.
Hot Topic.
They don't want my money for Simpsons Playmates figures. They don't want my money.
Let me say this: if there's a male associate working at Hot Topic, just turn around and leave. There's no need. There's just no need. It's the Hot Topic has to be managed by a woman. It doesn't work the other way. That was your problem. It was a man, right?
It was. The
men should not be working at Hot Topic. I will say that is the hill I will die on. So get out of there. So thankfully this was a female run Hot Topic.
Okay.
And they had one soda. Who was it? I can't even think of it. But what I noticed was it was next to one of those Blockbuster Rewind figures. They come in like the mini VHS cases. And then I was like, wait a minute. Are these the same? But they just changed the packaging? But no. The sculpting is very, very uniform for the Blockbuster Rewind figures. They're almost like too straight. They look more like a Playmobil figure. It's like not nearly as good, I think, as the soda figure. But I don't know if the soda line is continuing because they come in this tin soda can, which cannot be cheap to produce. And my only experience with these,
at least?
Yeah, I don't know, but you wouldn't want to. It's part of the thing.
Can I get my deposit back? Can you imagine?
Does it say on the bottom?
Get a deposit.
Are we paying the deposit tax on top of it? That's what interesting.
Maybe.
But I had no idea how much these cost because I was only paying the $5 that Five Below had. But at Hot Topic, the soda was like $15 or something, and then the Blockbuster was more than that. I was like, what? Who's paying that much for these? Like, Pop should be around 10. Pop is good enough. I'm not paying double that for this character. Get out of here.
The soda pop.
It's crazy. But I do like the soda pop, but it seems like they're ending. Although, I checked on eBay to see like what characters they've made, and they pretty much made every character ever. So, like, I don't know where those will end up, but if you see them at Goodwill, pick them up for me. Because I'd like to start a collection on the cheap. But
what was that Funko line that came out? They just had the Ghostbusters, and they had a couple other characters, and they were like vinyl figures.
They looked like Wallace and Gromit.
They looked like Wallace and Gromit, that style, like a claymation. But they never made Winston. They never made Winston. No, they never made Winston.
It was sad. And then they did like Seinfeld, but they didn't make the main character. They didn't make Jerry or even like Elaine.
Really?
They did the Soup Nazi and Newman. It's the strangest thing. So that was weird because when
Brian
Funko...
Flynn must have been running things at Funko at the time, where he's like, just give all these obscure characters and forget about Winston while we're at it.
I think it was like the old owner of Funko, because they've had like there's the whole thing, and that guy's trying to make a new company now. We forgot to talk about that last week. Anyway, when Pops first started, they didn't know that Pops were going to turn into what they are now. So they were like throwing all this different stuff against the wall. That's when we saw those like He-Man styled figures and like all this different stuff.
Oh, that's true. Yes, the DC
Savage Universe or something.
Savage Universe,
World.
Yeah.
So these
that Batcave, I still have that in the box.
And then, so you were talking about these larger. They look like from Wallace and Gromit, and
Yes.
but they weren't. But I don't like. I guess it was just like this particular artist. That was the way he would draw his characters. Mm-hmm. But they really looked like that, and they were tall. They were large, and I thought they were cool. But like you said, they didn't make Winston. And they made the random characters.
Right, and they were at GameStop, and then they were like that. You'd see them on clearance, Barnes and Noble.
They had them at Target. I got mine at
GameStop.
Target. The end cap
at Target, probably on clearance though. Yeah,
they were on clearance at one point. Definitely did not.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Pops worked. Thank God for Pops, for Funko at least, for
True.
Funko's sake. I forget what we were talking about. We were talking about Pops.
We're on top of. We're on Funko.
Pop.
We're gonna go on a big old Funko streak because there's a lot going on with Funko.
There's a
In
lot
your
going on
mind,
with Funko.
you're more into Funko Pops than I am. I kind of have checked out.
So I like Funko Pops when they will do a version of a character that you're never going to see in any other form. For example, I went to Ross. They had a bunch of new Funko Pops. They had that 4-pack of Little Mermaid. They had a glittery Ariel. This was a Walmart exclusive, but it, didn't sell, I guess. So it ended up at Ross. They had Captain America from the first Captain America, where his shield didn't have the color yet, where it was just silver, and he was wearing like this army, like a dress uniform. I got that from my wife for her new office. And then they had the Flash from the movie The Flash, where he's wearing like a monkey hoodie or like a bathrobe.
Okay,
great. Like you would never see that. No company would ever make that as a figure. But because Funko makes so many versions, especially for these movie lines where they just do a million different characters or versions of characters. So, like, that's the perfect pop to me because you would never see that anywhere else. So I grabbed that just because it's so ridiculous. And I actually like The Flash. I know a lot of people didn't, but I thought that was good.
Well, we've been seeing a lot of these digital pop things lately. We saw a couple weeks ago the Batman. Batman pops, the costume, the digital pops.
Yes.
And so then this week that we're in now, we saw something new.
Right. So I hate this. I hate these digital pops
so
much.
This really got you. This really got you bad because is right up your alley.
They save the best characters for the friggin' digital pops where you can't even buy them. You have to gamble your chances on them.
Right.
So I didn't know how this whole thing worked, but I saw these Batman ones last week or whatever, and the thing happened, the event happened, and I was seeing people talking about what they were getting. So I would comment on their tweet or whatever, and I would be like, how does this work? And some people were like mean, and they're like, go look it up. But some people
of course. Go find your own Goodwill.
I know,
Paul.
It's like all the information knows there.
Don't ask me. Don't ask me. That's the exact same problem you run into when the people are looking for your Goodwill. No, I don't want more competition trying to find. No, it's not.
Maybe
you're
right. Maybe no, because they're gonna. It's not like they're all gonna sell. It's not like it's not that No, I don't think it's the same at all.
If you enter it, there's less of a chance for them to get a physical pop.
No, because there's a finite number regardless. They don't make more depending on the number of people that enter.
Right, but the more people that enter the pool, the less of a chance that person would get.
No, because it's not a pool. They create a set of cards. There's a finite number of like these rares or whatevers. It doesn't matter. They're going to sell all they sell. They're all going to get sold when they sell out. So it's just like you got to get in before they're all sold out. It doesn't change
I get that,
the odds.
But like, what if that person doesn't get the opportunity to because you got in ahead of them?
Well, they could have. They bought them when they bought them. They could have bought multiple packs.
But what if the person after you spent $50 for the Firehouse?
What if ifs and buts were candy and nuts? We would all be Vonkadanya. No, I appreciate your efforts here to have a spirited discussion, but
I failed. I'm gonna go back to sleep.
It's okay. We'll save that for when we talk about the accolade. So anyways, someone did explain it to me, and basically you pay, I think, like $30 and you get 17 digital cards. And if you pull a rare, or there's another word, those are redemption cards, and you can send away for the physical pop. And that's the goal of this, is to get the physical pop. So I said, in theory, could you get more than one redemption card per one purchase? And they said yes. Like, they once did like one, they got 4. I was like, well, that's great, because you're paying $30. I always think of pops being $10 a piece. Like, that's good. But if you spent $30 and got nothing, or you bought multiple packs and you got nothing, I'd be so mad.
It's like scratch tickets. It's like
exactly, but that's not what this is. We shouldn't be gambling on toys.
I mean, exactly. But that's somebody's idea of fun and collecting. It's
someone's idea of making money and having not have to pay anything to produce it. It's genius because it works, but I hate it. On record as hating it. So this week they announced the next set, and they're going to be based after characters from the Disney Afternoon. So characters from Darkwing Duck, from DuckTales. What else was there? Was there Gummy Bears, Tailspin? And again, I would probably buy all of these, but I'm not going to, because they're going to, to get the whole set on the aftermarket, it'd be like $1,000 or something crazy.
Sure.
So basically, these do not exist. These are not going to show up at the Goodwill, or maybe they will. Maybe they'll show up at a Ross.
Maybe they will.
Be a huge mix-up.
I would say, and pops are nuts, because it's like, I think I saw some videos on TikTok this past week. That was like Niagara Falls Comic-Con, and there was a booth set up, and some of the prices on these pops. We're talking like there was like, and they're not going to get the money. There was one that was like $150,000.
Yeah,
and it's insane.
Well, it's like perceived value, but I think at some point in the history of pops, some of them have sold for these crazy amounts, so people think that other ones will. Somebody screwed up and actually paid. The other series in here is Rescue Rangers. They have Fat Cat, which is amazing.
Okay.
I definitely would have got Fat Cat. I would have got Flintheart, Glomgold, Mob Eagle, Liquidator. Oh, Liquidator, is that the name from Darkwing Duck? The Aquaman character, not Aquaman, Hydro Man character. I never knew his name was Liquidator. And then Don. How do you say it? Don Carnage from Tailspin. The leader of the pirates. Don Carnage. I don't know. That sounds wrong to me, but that's how it says it there.
Hyphen over anything?
No, there's no hyphen or
I don't know.
a tilde or whatever.
Okay. I'm just seeing pops go for more money, like asking price for more, like perceived value, as you said.
Yeah.
Than like the rocket firing Boba Fett at this point. And it's insane.
It's a crazy world.
It's
they did that documentary a bunch of years ago about the pop fans. I'd love to see an updated version to see if anyone's still a completist. It's impossible at this point because of these prices, but I just wonder what people are doing. But it's basically like the stock market where they pump up these prices, but then like in reality, is anybody actually paying that much? Like, is the value there? It just is like fantasy money. And then a pop is such a fragile thing. Like, the box is so fragile. I would just be so afraid. And I know they put it on they put it in cases to protect it and
Were
stuff.
you finding things, or was it another video where people were they were at a TJ Maxx and they had the figures in the cases?
Yes.
Intentionally.
The art pops come pre-cased.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the star. It was like Darth Vader with like a crazy print.
Right.
Like lava or something. And then an Obi-Wan, which looked ridiculous. But here's the thing. That was like one day. I went back 2 days later. They were gone. People snatched them up. Yeah.
Of course.
But I checked, and it's not like they sell for anything. It's not like...
No, but
like
the cases, I mean...
Well, the cases...
What were they selling them for? Like $4.99 maybe? Like
I think they were like $6. It wasn't much. It was cheaper than Goodwill.
But you get that case... And it's cheaper than Goodwill, plus you get that case.
Plus you get the case. Yeah, absolutely.
And those cases, they're not like a flat case. Like, you can't, like, take it and, like, flatten it. It's like an actual, like, acrylic molded case for the pop.
Like
and that's money right there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you had some Pops, like maybe they were autographed, if you had my autograph on there, like that one guy.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
You want to protect them for... But I wasn't sure that you could even open the case because I didn't see a seam. I thought maybe these were permanently encased, like when they do slabs for trading cards.
I watched a gentleman open one of those slabs, and it was like the saddest thing. I was like, there's a lot more to just the slab than like what I've seen. There's almost like a heat sealed protective sleeve in the slab that they have to cut open. And then the video was just him breaking the slab entirely, cutting the sleeve, and then putting it in a paperback sleeve into like one of those long. I don't know,
because it wasn't worth enough. He just wanted it like in his collection.
Right. He's like, I know this is gonna trigger some folks, but
okay.
And it was like he like flipped through it and like read it, and it was kind of like comic books are meant to be read. And then the comments were just like, hey, you do you, man, whatever. That's not what we like.
I kind of get that with comics. With cards, it's fine because you can see everything you could see if you were holding it. But with a comic, it's like ceases to be a comic now. It's basically a one sheet. You see the front, you see the back. Who knows what the inside is?
Right? Yeah, it winds up on the wall. Like it's like, hey, here's a picture of my kids, and here's a picture of my Spider-Man 100.
It might as well just be the cover at this point. Like keep the rest of it out. I don't know. But I get why it's done there.
The back page for the Stridex comic book pad.
Yes, exactly. Whatever they were hawking at the time.
Take care of your skin, kids. Use the Stridex pads.
Man, just crazy stuff that would be sold in comics, and like, because it was stuff that was aimed at kids. Like they didn't think adults were buying this stuff. It was like what kids would want, or tweens.
Right.
All right, so there was some news this week regarding Power Rangers. So it was reported this week that Power Rangers is no longer actively producing a new series with Netflix. So Power Rangers had been on Netflix. They did that Once and Only special. They had the latest series. The final season was exclusive to Netflix.
Yeah.
And of course, we've been talking since that series ended that what they wanted to do was to create a new series, live action, a little darker, geared towards like the older audience, teens, that was more in line with the 2017 series than with previous television series. But this week, Netflix basically was like, we're done. We don't like what we're hearing from Hasbro. Hasbro apparently not wanting to go in that direction anymore, not wanting to spend money. They're in a save money kind of situation because they licensed out to Playmates.
They did.
So
definitely a slump year for Power Rangers. They didn't see the returns they wanted with that Lightning collection. Yeah.
The story behind this saga, this part of Power Rangers history is very interesting because it all dates back to when Hasbro purchased Power Rangers from Saban, and the stories are starting to come out now about how this all went down. So at the time, Hasbro was being run by this gentleman, Brian Goldner. Now, Brian died in 2021. He had prostate cancer. He died suddenly. And with that, really died his dream of what Hasbro was going to be, which was this entertainment company. They bought E1. They did Dungeons and Dragons. Like, he was really trying to make them more than a toy company. So now, Chris Cox, his real name, Mr. Cox, he's in charge. And he does not want to spend money on any of this stuff. He does not share the vision that Brian had. So Brian had writers working on this Power Rangers universe. That's what Netflix was pitched. A Power Rangers universe. But now all they're getting is like, maybe we can go back to the old ways and do like a cheaper season. Netflix doesn't want that. They're like, that's not we were promised.
They want the Power Rangers version of the MCU.
They want the Power Rangers version of the MCU, exactly. They want to own that. And that's not what is being offered at this time. So currently, Hasbro's basically saying that they're looking now for another partner.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I don't know how hard they're looking. They might just kind of be like, So the same way that they license out the toys, we could see them license out the television rights to another studio. So there's still a chance there will be new Power Rangers. It's just not going to be the iteration that was being rumored. I mean, it could still look like that. It just won't be the exact same thing, because you're going to have to start all over again. And that's more time on the calendar. So
yeah, it's more time away from the core audience as the audience gets older.
Well, and sometimes that's
I'd
not
worry
the
about
worst
it.
thing.
I'd worry. It's not the worst thing, but it's not the best thing either. Because I mean, how do you capitalize on those kids that are growing up? That, you know, their parents are like, "Hey, I like Power Rangers. Maybe my kids will like Power Rangers." I mean, if we wait too long, those kids might not be interested in the Power Rangers.
I think they already are not.
A generational skip.
I think there will be a generational skip. I think what's going to happen now is eventually we will see somebody try again with Power Rangers, but the world of entertainment will be in an entirely different place. And I think that that's not the worst thing for Power Rangers, because Power Rangers, as it stands right now, does not work. Kids do not want Power Rangers right now. So some time away, maybe kids like different things in a few years. Mm-hmm. I think this is a necessary change, because I think if they went through what they were planning, it would have failed, just like the 2017 movie. I thought that movie was great, but nobody went to see it. Nobody cared.
No.
And I don't think anyone would care about Power Rangers right now. So I think a little time away, let people forget, maybe let some other things try and fail and learn from those mistakes. And then maybe eventually find that lightning in a bottle, bring it back. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's certainly interesting from an outsider's perspective to watch. It really is.
Yeah, I'd like to see some maybe some documentaries about it, some fan documentaries.
Yeah,
that'd
be nice.
We're heading soon, this month or next month. I think it's this month. Power Morphicon, like the convention season for Power Rangers, is kicking in. So it'll be interesting to see what the fans have to say about these developments. I'm holding on to those Hasbro figures because I feel like the value is going to spike on those. Because there's not going to be any. There's still going to be, like, as long as there's two people that want a Power Ranger figure, they're going to have to battle, and they're going to raise that price up. There don't need to be a lot of fans.
And to finish up my monster line, I need to find Finster. I think Goldar, Finster, and the Minotaur.
Finster was really cheap on Amazon for a second. Minotaur, I think you can still get for like normal price.
I think you can. I think I've seen him for as low as 20, and I think 15 to 20 is my biting point. And then
did they do Slizzard? Did they release Slizzard?
Yeah, I got Slizzard.
You got
Snizzard? Yeah, I got the Snizzard. Yeah.
I think I definitely skipped that one. I don't know.
Oh,
but I think I want Minotaur.
He was in the Snizzard was in the plastic free.
Yeah.
Packaging.
Well, they all were. They never got to go back.
No, there were some.
Well, once it started being
the
plastic
early
free,
ones, yeah, I know what you mean.
For the monsters, yeah, of course. But I'm just saying, like, once they went to plastic free, they didn't revert.
Right, they
like
did.
We're seeing with G.I. Joe now.
Right.
Those figures that were the remastered Power Rangers, where they did the core figures in green,
yeah,
those like never made it out to stores.
They're somewhere.
And then people that pre-ordered them got their orders canceled because I don't think Hasbro produced enough of them. So those figures are going to be worth a lot, because those are the best versions of the Hasbro Lightning Collection Mighty Morphin figures. So if you have green or red, man, hold on to those. So Acolyte, this was the 3rd episode, Star Wars. This one really upset some people in the Star Wars community.
Shook a lot of people to the core.
Now, even before we talk about this episode,
yeah,
I have to wonder what Disney is doing at this point, because I'm not saying that this was anything. I'm not giving even an opinion on this episode. I'm just wondering if they know what they're doing, and if what they're doing is intentional, or if every time they are surprised when people are upset about the choices they're making with Star Wars.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I have to agree with you. I don't know if like they mean to, or if they're just like, yeah, Star Wars is ours, so we can do with it as we please.
Do whatever we want.
Yes, and this
You'll
is how
like
we
it.
choose to portray the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're the best choices, but at the same time, I don't feel a big connection. So like this by no means is my Star Wars. Like I can put this portion, like all the, and we're talking about like the, not so much the Old Republic, but whatever this High Republic stuff. I haven't put any attention to it. So I don't have that gauged interest or like that memory or the feelings towards it. So I look at it as just like media.
But do you feel like what happens in this series impacts the
well,
original
I don't have
trilogy
to watch this.
events?
I don't have to
No, but
watch
I'm saying,
it if
like,
I don't want to. But
let's say that in this they determine that, let's say, that the Force inherently is bad, and that's not. I'm just saying, like, I'm just trying to think of something, and then does that affect, like, you find out about this even if you don't watch the series. You find out, and then now watching the original
changes
trilogy,
your perception. Yeah,
does it change your perception?
Head, sure.
You would think that. Do you take you? So you're accepting this as canon, even though you're not like actively watching it.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, because no, I just that's a tough take to do.
Yeah,
that's just a tough take because it's like, if you go back to just those original movies in general, there was never anything past those 3 movies. Like the first movie's success was a fluke, in my opinion. Like
absolutely,
it was released
they thought it was
earlier
going to fail.
Or later,
yeah.
it would have failed monumentally.
If the director, if the editing was a little different, like there were so many chances for it to go wrong. Yeah,
there were. So like, if you look at it like that's a one-off, it should have never. If it failed, it failed. It would have just gone into.
It was a miracle that it was good.
It was. It's a Hail Mary pass right there that this thing succeeded.
Yeah,
and that this universe grew from it. And I think we're just seeing a lot of divisive fans. You know, butting heads for no real, like people that are like, oh, you know, this isn't how George specifically wanted it. George is, you know, on the record as saying this is how the Force works. And it's like, George sold it, man. So it's not what George says anymore. George don't care. Well, he got his $4 billion. He don't care.
It's so weird because when you make a movie, you think, okay, there's the writer, there's the director. And in this case, George was both for the first movie.
Right.
He directed the first movie. And then he was the editor because in such a way, he only shot the shots where he could edit it the way he wanted. He didn't shoot things different ways so that the studio could come in and be like, use this version. Like, no. He very much wanted this vision to be. And then obviously his wife helped make this a usable edit. Is that the story?
Yes.
Yes. So yes, in a way, George had a very concrete idea of what this would be. But George also had Luke and Leia being a love interest in the beginning and didn't decide that they were brother and sister until after Empire, right?
Right.
So
I
to say,
so,
like,
because I think at the time, at least from a screenplay perspective, New Hope and Empire were essentially a 2-part movie.
Yeah. Yeah. When he wrote it, he wanted it to be like so long. But they're like, that's not how movies work, George.
No, that's not how movies work. Right. You can't.
So then we go through and we can make movies and we make changes. Like Jabba the Hutt was a guy at one point. But then that scene didn't get put in the movie. So then when we got to Jabba the Hutt, he was a slug creature. Like, to say that this was always written and it was always going to be this way, that's not how movies work. It's not final until it's light on a screen. Changes are made to the very end, especially now when things can be digitally manipulated. You could change stuff right up until release of the DVD or streaming.
You could, or you can add stuff to that DVD.
You could do special editions. We've seen that too.
You could. Yes,
so it's funny now that people are like, George wanted it this way. And it's like, yeah, but he didn't make it, so it doesn't count. Like, he can put out a newsletter and you can read the way that he wanted it to be, but then is that the way you want it to be?
Right.
Like, movies are I don't think movies are meant to be held in such esteem that they create all of this other media. Because it's a movie, it's a movie. You go and see it, you like it or you don't, you move on with your life, you make more movies. But the fact that it's created this universe that has to be all interconnected, and then you have all these different people making decisions about what this universe should be, and then maybe forgetting that this was going to be this, or somebody's working on something in the future that has it a different way, it's impossible. And it's not like it should be any different because it's just impossible. And people like things, or people don't like things. And like, at the end of the day, it's just a movie. It can't be more. It's not written in stone. It's not an act of Congress that's been passed that says it has to be this way.
It doesn't, but there are so many people who, in their world, this is not so much all they have, but they've shaped their whole life around this perception, around the Force. I mean, it drives me nuts when people are like, he's one with the Force right now, and it's like, buddy, that's from a movie, okay?
It's from a movie.
That doesn't exist.
Somebody decided that sounded cool. It's not like that information rained down from the heavens.
No.
It's just, and people make this their religion or the equivalent of a religion. This is important to them.
It's important to them, and it gives them this belief, and it's a nice little blanket to wrap around themselves and say, oh no. But then someone else is like, well, here's the thread. This is the thread.
Wow.
Like,
okay.
No, it's the Force.
Right. Stop changing it. It's like instead of their bracelet saying, what would Jesus do? It's like, what would Luke Skywalker do? I'm going to be a good guy today because the character that I like from a movie was a good guy. And now you have this other media saying maybe he wasn't that great, or with the sequels, like maybe he wasn't that great. He was going to kill kids. He gave up.
He was just a person. Maybe he had flaws.
Wait a minute.
No.
But I've wrapped my whole identity around this character.
This pedestal that you've put them on. But
you
say it perfectly. Yes, this is the identity that I want. I can't have a free identity. I have to copy and paste this facsimile that does it, this fictional person, and that becomes who I am. That's how I really enjoy that. I really like how you said that.
But nobody's going to tell you not to, because the companies want you to buy their products, so they're not going to be like, don't get too attached. Like, there's nobody... Like, it's got to be someone in your life to say, like, don't get too attached to these characters because they could change. Just like, don't meet your heroes. Well, you think your fictional heroes are okay, but not even then, because there's always more stories to tell. You don't know.
God, it's the second time I've heard that in a week. Don't meet your heroes.
Tom Brady.
What?
No, who else?
No, I didn't.
Who else
no, I didn't hear it. No, someone in my life said, "Don't meet my heroes." Well, no, because I just you go.
Especially if you like wrestling, don't meet your heroes.
Listen,
I got Chris Jericho's autograph over here. I'm gonna take that down.
I mean, we do the we do the convention circuit dressed as the slashers, the 80s slashers. we stay overnight. The next morning, I'm outside. I don't smoke, but I'm just like getting the car prepped, hanging out with all these celebrities that you idealize, and they're just in their pajama pants smoking butts, and you're like, oh. Oh.
It's a bigger conversation about how people are not comfortable being themselves. They need to have someone to idolize. They need to have this idealistic version of a human being. They need that to exist because they don't feel confident in themselves. It's a whole other conversation, but it's Star Wars. It's part of Star Wars because Star Wars is the biggest thing in the world to a lot of people, and Disney is not. They're not afraid, or they're not considering the feelings of this very, very fanatical, large group of Star Wars
I feel
fans.
like they want to move away from this group.
They want to make new fans.
They want to make
new
fans, new friends.
They think those original fans will stick with it regardless. But they want more people. They want different groups. They want different demographics.
They want it to
like
evolve,
Star Wars.
I feel like.
Yes. Now, the story being told in The Acolyte takes place hundreds of years before the prequels.
Hundreds, just 100 years.
Takes place 100 years. Okay, well that is
$100.
actually a big difference.
It's not even like 500 years. It's like Yoda's 800 years old at this point.
Okay,
we haven't seen him yet, but
I was gonna say, if this was hundreds of years ago, don't you think they would talk different? Like they would have that transatlantic accent?
Oh, right.
Like why are they're too similar? See that force? We're gonna get that Sith. Okay, well that does make a difference. So it's 100 years before the events that we're familiar with. You have the Jedi out doing Jedi stuff. I'm still not clear on like who appointed them or what they're doing, but they encountered a group of witches. We know they're witches because they call themselves. We know they're witches because they mentioned their group as a coven.
Fair enough.
A coven is a group of witches.
So
that's the only reason that I will say that they are witches, because they call themselves a coven.
Well, everyone else, yes. All right, yes.
But yes, they're obviously witches because they have powers. Now there was this big part where the main witch was talking about the Force, but she wasn't calling it the Force. She was calling it the thread.
Right.
And she was talking about people who use the Force are basically misusing it. Like it should not be used in such a way. It should just exist. But then she was like using it to push the children back. So like I feel like she's kind of like talking out of both sides of her mouth.
Okay.
Side note. Please stop writing children characters, because children are not good actors. You're never going to get a good actor to read this stuff. It's always going to sound bad. And Star Wars keeps doing this. They keep writing children characters, and then they need to cast children, and then it completely takes people out of the scene because children are not good actors.
No,
it's just bad.
They just seem very happy to just be on set, and like
they're just speaking words.
You can tell
they have no lived experiences on which to draw. They are just playing pretend, which you can say acting is, but when you're an adult, at least you can be like, oh, I remember this time something sad happened. That will help me with this. But with children, they got nothing. They're just reading the lines, and it sounds like it, and it sounds terrible. Please stop writing children characters. That will help you. I can't tell you how much that will help you if you stop having those, because the actors you have as adults are not great. But the kids are really not great. All right. So we have this coven of witches. They made two children twins, even though they cast two children that don't look like twins, but that's fine. They're twins. You disagree? You think they look very similar?
I disagree. I think they look very similar.
One was taller. I thought one was I didn't know. I don't think they look as identical.
They are twins in real life. They are twins,
but they're not identical. They're fraternal. I imagine.
Okay.
Because they're not identical. That's
I look at it both. I'm like, okay.
I thought they should have just done. They should have done the Parent Trap thing where they had one Lindsay Lohan, and then they just.
Well, that's what they're doing in the present
as an
portion
adult.
Of this show.
I know. Why not do that for both of them? Whatever. Anyway. Okay. So she was born without a father. There were two women involved. As we know from Jurassic Park, sometimes that can make you can make a child with two female characters.
Yeah.
Because the Raptors did it. So people right there are mad because they're like, no, Anakin was the first to be born from the Force. Stop it. I thought, now correct me if I'm wrong, when we first found out that Anakin did not have a daddy, were we like, yeah, that's great, he's from the Force, I like that? Or was that like, what? Why? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. But
now people are like, that's
everyone,
great.
They're like, oh, that's just like a Jesus analogy.
He's
like
a
Immaculate
Jesus.
Conception.
Exactly.
That's it. That's what it
that's
was.
Lazy.
Right?
That's so lazy.
Yeah, that was just George Lucas saying, that's just Mary in the manger. That's how it was. Yeah. That's where he pulled it
from. So now people are mad because apparently
there's someone else in the galaxy's doing it, right?
He wasn't the first. He can't be the chosen one. Also, side note. The scene,
but that's the prophecy of the Jedi. That's not the prophecy of this coven of witches. It's the prophecy of the Jedi, and the Jedi. That's what they're trying to say.
No idea.
Well, that's what they're trying to say. That, and I'm leaning heavily back on. I know it's difficult because a lot of people are like, I hate the Last Jedi too. But there's a line from the Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker speaks, and it's to say that the Force belongs to the Jedi. Something along these lines is inaccurate. You know, it belongs to, and that's what Disney's trying to put out. It's like the Force doesn't just, you see it with the broom boy at the end, Force just doesn't exist for the Jedi to use. The Force is everywhere. And the galaxy is huge. And therefore, everybody can interpret this crazy, oh, look at that motion, and I grab the soda.
Like Snoke. The lightsaber.
Yeah.
Did you see the behind the scenes where it's like it's him, it's like Andy Serkis, but he still like catches it with the Force, like that's actual practical effect.
Yeah, I've seen that.
You can see here using the Force.
And I think what people are going to be scared of here is because we have this idealistic view of the Jedi.
Yeah,
is that we saw this flashback. I feel like this flashback episode was a little too early in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I think there should have been a little bit more played out in the present. But I think we're going to, we see this coven of witches all dead. And no one's really talking about it. I mean, I haven't seen it at least. No one's really talking about how they died. And I think the Jedi are just going to be killing them. Being like snuffing out all these other potential Force users just so. And that's what people don't want to see. They don't want to see their Jedi Knights be this
bad guys. Yeah.
Bad guy Force. Yeah.
Well, we know that Tobin did something that he was very like, I'll just kill myself now because I know I did a bad thing.
Right, because I know something happened. I'm going to do it
something
now.
happened. We don't know.
Right,
so
another one exiled himself, another one's in denial, and the other one's kind of in a dive bar with depression. That
was a Wookiee.
Where they
think.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm actually getting more interested in where this is going, but I'm also interested to see if how mad people get every week. I'm so mad
every week.
Like,
oh my!
Very like I don't know. Like people will post these reaction videos from like prominent Star Wars creators, and like they're very mad. They're very mad, and like I don't want to say that they're like that gives me enjoyment. But a little bit, because it's like it's a show. Stop taking it seriously. No one was ever gonna say that this like has to stay the same. No one's ever gonna be like, you're right, we're sorry, we apologize for telling other stories. Like that's never gonna be a thing. You've made the decision to make this more than it is. It never was more than a story to sell toys to children. That's what George has said.
True.
It's for kids. If you're an adult and you enjoy this, good. But you can't be mad that it's something else. You just can't. And I'm sorry if that's hard for you. And it sucks. If you spent your whole life wrapped up in this thing and all of a sudden you find out that it's not made specifically for you, it sucks. But guess what? Maybe you can have a kid and they like it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
that's
they do.
All I can say.
Maybe it's time to put away childish things.
Well, yeah, come full circle.
Right. There it is.
There it is. Put away childish things. Stop being a little kid. Stop infantilizing your life.
Yeah.
Well, that was exciting. We went real long on that, so I want to wrap up before your phone runs out of space.
Oh no, I'm good.
You're still
that's
good.
Fine. Yes.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, anything else?
I can't think of anything.
No, there's a lot, but those are the big
Acolyte.
Those are the big
Acolyte.
Yeah. Acolyte. All right, everybody. Well, you know what we say. We don't want to grow up, but we already did. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
I still wanna be a Toys R Us kid.